Welcome to the Commander Breakdown of Kalamax, the Stormsire. Hope you're excited to have some fun today and talk about an electrifying dinosaur. I don't know, it's just, I didn't know I needed this into my life until they spoiled it, and I'm super excited about it. But let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors before we jump into the video. TCG Player. I'm now an affiliate with TCG Player, so if you don't mind, if you're looking for some cards, click on the link down in the description below. That will apply the coupon code, help you out, help the channel at the same time, and of course, ingaming.com/Jolt if you're in the market for any sort of playmats. But if you're keeping score at home, let's have some fun. Let's talk about Calamax. So we have Calamax, the Stormsire. That's going to be colorless green, blue, and a red. Whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax, the Stormsire, is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Whenever you copy an instant spell, put a +1 counter on Calamax. Super excited about this commander. Whenever they released it, I just love, I don't really play a lot of Teamer in my decks. I think Riku's the only commander that I've built, so I'm really excited to build this commander. And it's just such a nice effect. You know, something like Channe that's going to give you that card draw whenever you cast those creatures, that is nice, but it can be kind of overpowered sometimes. I feel like this design on Kalamax is pretty nice. You know, you have to get it tapped down to get that copy effect, and it just leads to some really nice board states, especially if you're going to be able to get some extra value casting your instants on your opponent's turns. But let's go and break down kind of the leeway, support, and timing for this commander. So we have leeway of 3. If you don't know what leeway is, this is going to be how much room for creativity you have in the actual deck building process. So as far as leeway goes for Kalamax, you're going to be completely wide open, because the only thing that Kalamax really cares about is being tapped down and allowing you to cast an instant to get a copy of that. So as far as whatever sort of instant package you want to run in there, it's totally open. You can run Nexus of Fate. There's just, you know, you can go Burn. There's just a lot of different options that you can use Kalamax, because Kalamax is going to enable you to just end up with some really nice value board states. Now, as far as the support package that you need to run for Kalamax, you can keep this pretty low to the ground. You do want to have a little bit of, you know, kind of tap and untap shenanigans with Kalamax. That way you can get some extra mana, stuff like Paradise Mantle or Earthcraft, whatever that may be. But you don't really have to go super overboard with all these effects that tap Kalamax down. You know, if you run, you know, maybe 4 or 5 cards in there, you should be good to go. Now, as far as the timing for Kalamax, this is definitely going to be a mid-range commander. This is one of those commanders that you don't really want to spend turn 4. Let's say you've been making your land drops, you're not ahead on mana. You don't want to just get Kalamax out there and then keep your fingers crossed that Kalamax is going to stick around by the time it gets back to your turn. Typically, you want to have some sort of value to get from Kalamax. So if you're going for Kalamax, you want to have some instant that you're going to be able to copy, whether it's something like Anticipate or a Lightning Bolt. You just want to get some sort of value the turn that it comes down, because if you just roll Kalamax out there, you've got this awesome electric dinosaur, and then something happens to it, then you're going to be playing behind the rest of the game, and that is exactly where this deck does not want to be. No matter what sort of package you're running, set it up to where when you get Kalamax down, you're going to get some sort of value from it the turn that it does come down. So that's going to kind of put it into a mid-range style commander. And of course, you're running Teamer. You want to run a lot of ramp in there. Now, some of the ways that you can really take advantage of Kalamax is by running some sort of tap effect in there. You can always swing in with Kalamax to get that tap effect going, but you can run stuff like Springleaf Drum, Paradise Mantle, Earthcraft. These are going to allow you to tap down Kalamax and get some sort of value to kind of copy that spell. So it's basically kind of like a Pyromancer's Goggles for just super, super cheap. These things, you know, you don't want to go overboard in here, but you want to run some sort of package of tapping it down, because there may not be a good board state for you to swing into, or you don't want to lose Calamax in combat. Some other good stuff is going to be Cryptolith, Rite, and Opposition. These are all great ways that you can, you know, especially with Opposition, you can mess with your opponent's board state. Let's say you have Calamax untapped, you have Opposition out there, you can tap down Calamax, tap down one of their creatures. Now you're active for some kind of double instance, and that's going to be some really nice value that you can generate on your side of the battlefield. And of course, there's also some lands that you can run in your actual package that help you get to that tap ability. Holdout Settlement and Survivor's Encampment. That's going to allow you to get that extra mana that you need to make sure you're hitting your spells and getting those extra copies. Now, outside of, you know, kind of tapping down Calamax for some mana, there's also some really interesting ways that you can tap it down. That's going to be vehicles. So Smuggler's Copters, Mizium Take, Heart of Karan. These are all great ways that you're going to be able to tap down Calamax Calamax, and also at the same time kind of get a little bit of extra value. You know, let's say you're going to be tapping down Calamax with Smuggler's Copter, swing across, get some of that extra card draw. You also have Midlothian tank, so whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it becomes an artifact, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So if you're kind of running like a low to the ground spell slinger version, you're going to be good to go. If you heard some clawing, that's my production assistant Dorothy. That is my cat. So she's excited to talk about Calamax. But anyway, you know, something like Midlothian tank, that's really going to help you. You know, it's not the best thing you can be doing in a deck like this, but just running some variation of tap down effects between Paradise Mantle and these vehicles is pretty good. And then Heart of Quran is just going to be, you know, just a nice little value piece. Another good option that you can go for is going to be using something like Convoke. So you have Court of Calling, Stoke the Flames. Now, let me say this, I'm pretty sure that by the time the spell goes on the stack and you tap down Calamax for a Convoke spell, that it's still going to get that copy spell. Check with the judge. What I saw online, it did say that it should be correct, but like I said, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure by the time that you're paying for the cost of Court of Calling and you tap down Calamax, it's going to be, the board state's basically going to read Calamax as being tapped, and you're going to get that copy of Court of Calling or Stoke the Flames. Double check with the judge, but I'm pretty sure how that works. But that's also another great way that you can tap down a creature or tap down Calamax and still just kind of get that nice little copy effect off your instant and sorcery spells. Now, one of the best ways to take Calamax is running kind of this kind of control package. Crossing Grip, Electrolyze, Chaos Warp. You know, you can definitely run these big instant and sorceries, these big instant spells that you want to copy, but just kind of staying low to the ground with stuff that affects your opponent's board state. I mean, just turning Electrolyze into deal 4 damage spread out across creatures, draw a card, Chaos Warp, you're going to be able to get rid of 2 permanents from your opponents on the battlefield. Whatever that may be, just being able to get some 2-for-1s off of removal is really going to help you out as far as the tempo flow of the game. Now, of course, stuff like Beast Within and Return to Nature, you know, just going Return to Nature and exiling a couple cards out of the graveyard from your Reanimator opponent, whatever that may be, running some package of control options, it's going to be a very good spot for Calamax, and it's going to be just nice, you know, especially like Lightning Bolt and a Braid. You know, imagine just double Lightning Bolt. I mean, you don't really see a lot of Lightning Bolt in Commander, but there's a lot of creatures that can definitely die to Lightning Bolt, and especially when you've got double copy of it. That's some good magic right there. The other thing that you do want to incorporate into your Calamax deck is running some sort of, you know, card advantage. Impulse, Anticipate. These are awesome options that are very low to the ground, low converted mana cost, and it's going to generate some very nice values. So basically, Impulse is look at the top 8 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand. Same thing with Anticipate, top 3 cards. And then also getting an extra copy of Dig Through Time. You know, you're casting a lot of instant or sorceries in this deck. Being able to get an extra copy of Dig Through Time, look at the top 14, grab 4, sign me up. That sounds like some really good time. Also, stuff like Chemist's Insight and Izzet Charm. Once again, kind of staying with that low to the ground feel for the deck. You're going to have Chemist's Insight coming out of the graveyard, which is really going to help you get that cast ability. You just want to be able to keep cards flowing in your hand as the game progresses. You know, if you just have a bottleneck of just huge instants that you need to resolve, you're going to have a hard time. So you do want to incorporate some sort of option, even something like going for Opt. You know, just getting an extra copy of Opt is always nice. And of course, you're in Teamer. You're probably going to have a lot of ramp in here. You want to run some sort of tap out, draw a bunch of card spells, because if you're going to resolve a double pull from tomorrow for like, you know, 6, 7, or 8, Stroke of Genius for 6, 7, or 8, that's pretty much going to win you the game. It may not win you the game right there on the spot, but you have so much card advantage. It's going to be very hard for your opponents to stop that. So run some variation of a tap out spell, even if you're worried about hitting some counter magic. You know, what you can do is, because you get this bonus on your opponent's turn, just wait till the end of their turn, tap out for one of these spells, see if it resolves. If not, then maybe you have an extra copy in your hand, then you can kind of cast it on your turn and go from there. Like I mentioned, you are in Teamer. You do want to run a lot of ramp in here. There's actually some pretty neat ramp spells that instant speed that you can take advantage of. Haro is going to be 4 lanes on the battlefield for sacrificing 1 land. Oh yes, sign me up. Crop Rotation, Natural Connection. You know, some of these are not that much better than Cultivate, because Cultivate does bring it to your hand, 1 lane into your hand, 1 on the battlefield. But getting these double spells on your opponent's turn are really going to set you up for such a powerful turn once it gets back to you and you can cast stuff. Even stuff like Sprouting Vines or Growth Spiral. Just having some sort of instant speed way to put lands onto the battlefield is really going to help you out in your deck building. And of course, outside of the instant, you know, kind of lands that we're going about, do run ramp. You want Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Lantern, Cultivate, Skyshroud Claim. This is going to be a mana-hungry deck. You want to get ahead on mana as quickly as possible, and then really take advantage of those copy effects, because that's really going to help you separate yourself from the rest of the people at the table. Now, outside of kind of, the control aspect, the card advantage, you do want to run some sort of combat trick. Let's say you're running Berserk or Fatal Frenzy. Just getting an extra copy of these is going to make it to where you can really one-hit KO either one opponent at the table, or, just basically take care of a Planeswalker, whatever that may be. You're going to get some insane value from going for double Berserk and double Fatal Frenzy. Even something like Hunter's Insight. Choose target creature you control. I love this card. It's one of my pet cards. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. So let's say we cast, because there's going to be some times where you just have a 4/4 Dino swinging in, and your opponent's like, they're just tapping it down so they can get that copy effect. They may not have a good board state to stop that swing in. Then you can just go for a quick Hunter's Insight. That's going to be, you're looking at 8 cards that you can draw for 3 mana. Sign me up. That sounds pretty good. Now, we are in Teamer colors. There's a lot of combat tricks out there. These are some of the highlighted combat tricks I wanted to highlight. But outside of that, it's totally up to you what you want to run. But there's a lot of different ways you can take this deck. If you want to go combat focus, you can certainly do that. But at least running some variation of combat tricks is really going to help catch your opponent off guard, especially if you're running control and card advantage. Now, outside of the based instant package you want to run for your deck, you want to run some sort of back-breaking instant spell that's going to be hard for your opponent to stop. Something like Electro Dominance. That's going to allow you to kind of still keep up with that instant care package about Calamax, and at the same time, drop something on the battlefield. You have Electro Dominance, deals X damage to any target. Then you can cast a card with converting mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So you can drop in a Planeswalker, you can drop in a 1,000-Year Storm, deal 6 damage, then 12 damage, which that damage happens. There's just a lot of really good stuff that you can force your opponent into this corner of, hey, do you have a counter spell? If you don't, all right, awesome. I'm about to go Mario Star and just go to town. Same thing with Nexus of Fate. Not a fun card to play against, but in a deck like this is where it really shines. You're going to be able to get 2 extra turns at instant speed. Sign me up. And then just simple stuff like Refuse to Cooperate. Deals damage to target spells controller equal to that spell's converted mana cost. Let's say your opponent's going for one of their big spells. Let's say they're casting their 7 converted mana cost commander. Just going for a Refuse, getting that doubled, being able to deal 14 damage to your opponent, then have that copy effect out of the graveyard. That is a very nice feeling. And also stuff like Prophetic Bolt and Rouse Outburst. These are not necessarily super powerful cards, but if you can copy these, they become insanely good, because you're going to be able to take care of creatures on the battlefield or send that damage up top to your opponent and refill your hand to kind of keep that value going. Prophetic Bolt and Rouse Outburst, highly recommend running into the deck. Even if you're not running Burn, just run these in there, because it's kind of going to take the place of your extra card draw that you would normally be running in there. But that's some good magic right there. And of course, Expansion and Explosion, this is made for the deck. There's so many different ways you can use this. You've got copy target spell. You can tap out for a really nice expansion. Whatever that may be, this is going to be at home in any sort of Calamax deck that you're looking for. And of course, since we do care about casting instants, you want to run some sort of instant support package, whether that's a reduced cost or making sure that it can't be countered, whatever that may be. Goblin Electromancer is going to give you that reduced cost. Thryx is going to make it to where we can go for those really big spells that we just talked about and make sure that they're not countered. You can flash in Thryx. Your opponent's waiting for instants to come in. Thryx is always angry, and he's super happy to make sure that you win the game. Look at that face. He's a great team member. And of course, something like 1,000-Year Storm in a deck like this, like we mentioned earlier, we're going to have stuff like Chaos Warp, Beast Within, Izzet Charm. If you have 1,000-Year Storm down, you don't even have to really have a 1,000-year, you don't really have to have a Storm deck. Just getting down 1,000-Year Storm and then just kind of just chaining together a couple different spells. Let's say you kind of get the Storm count going a little bit, and the next thing you're going for Rouse Outburst for like 5 or 6. Oh man, that is some good magic. So basically, you get the Storm effect without having to run a bunch of dedicated cantrips and a bunch of mana-producing options that you can go for. Also, Boseiju, you want to make sure that you can stick some of these big instant or sorcery spells. So running some sort of uncounter package is definitely going to be in your favor. And of course, Primal Amulet. That's going to allow you to get that reduced cost and at the same time make sure that when it does flip, you can get some extra shenanigans going on. Now, outside of that, I'm going to save this for the last, because I'm pretty sure this is correct. You can go not necessarily infinite, but you need to declare a certain number with Calamax. But let's say that your opponent casts a spell, we reverberate on that spell, But you get a copy of Reverberate. You can keep targeting that Reverberate spell because it is a May ability. So you just declare this really large number. Since Calamax cares about a +1 counter getting on there, you can basically just kind of keep going for that Reverberate. Say, hey, I do this a million times. And then if you want to have some fun, go for something like Fling or grab the Reins. Sacrifice a creature, it deals damage to target player. So that's one way that you can definitely close the game out. Like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure this is correct. That's why I saved it for last. But do check with the judge, but I'm pretty sure that once you get Reverberate on the stack and you're making a copy of it, you can just keep making a copy of the copy of Reverberate, because Calamax cares about an instant copy. You're going to get that +1 counter on Calamax. So that's one way that you can kind of one-shot an opponent. So let's say you storm somebody out with 1,000-year Storm, you took care of most of the board, just go for a quick Fling and then deal that damage. You're going to be good to go. But that is going to be it for the deck tech. I'm super excited about Calamax. Like I mentioned, the creativity for this deck is completely wide open. There's a lot of different ways you can take this. You can go Voltron combat tricks. You can just go value play. You can go control. You can kind of go a mix of control and then late game instance like Nexus of Fate. Whatever that may be, Calamax is going to make sure that you're going to have some fun. But that's going to be it for the video. Super excited to be covering these new commanders coming out. And if you have any suggestions for the deck, hop in the comments. Put them in the comments below. People do search up these videos in hopes of building particular commanders. So that way, if you have something that I didn't cover, they're going to be able to see that comment. But that's going to be it for the video. In fact, if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.